Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. Today, I've got a really interesting question for you. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? I know it sounds like a simple question, doesn't it? But as you dig deeper, there's a really complicated story behind it. This question, or one very similar to it, it's been asked for thousands of years. There's a reference to the Greek philosopher Aristotle, who was posing this question in the 4th century BC. That's about 2,400 years ago, quite a long time. When he thought about it, he came up with a cheating answer. He said that both went infinitely backwards and that both had always existed. Now, based on their knowledge at the time, you can understand why you would think that. But it's not exactly capturing and answering the question, is it? Now, in the 1st century AD, so we've gone forward about 400 or 500 years. The Greek philosopher Plutarch, he's the first known person to have asked this question in the current form. He asked whether the hen or the egg came first. He described the question as he thought it would help to answer one of the greatest questions of his time. Did the world have a beginning? We jump forward another 400 years to the 5th century. A Roman scholar, Macrobius, he wrote that people jest about what you suppose to be trivial in asking whether the hen came first from the egg or the egg from the hen. But the point should be regardless as one of importance. So you can see the history of this question. Let's think then a little bit about this. Now, we all know, don't we? We get chickens from eggs and we get chicken eggs from chickens. But it's important to be clear when asking the question. We're referring to chicken eggs, not to a lot of other animals that lay eggs. Let's start to answer this by looking at a bit of evolution. Now, that's the gradual changes that many things go through over time. You know, not something that happens overnight. It's a very slow process that happens over many generations. If we look back through time, we'd see that the ancestors of chickens, well, they weren't chickens, but they were very chicken-like. Chickens as we know them today, well, they're thought to have evolved about 6,000 years ago. And it happened in Southeast Asia, somewhere like India, southern China, Indonesia, that sort of area. The birds that are thought to have evolved to eventually become chickens are red jungle fowl. Now, there are also traces in their DNA of grey jungle fowl, which lived in roughly the same area, so there would have been a bit of interbreeding between them. So, what happened? Well, from what we can tell, 2 red jungle fowl, they would have mated. Then, as a result of either a mutation in either one of the parents' genomes, or maybe even a mutation that happened in the first cell of that fertilised egg, it would mean that the embryo inside the egg, it was no longer a red jungle fowl, but it was actually a chicken. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of a diversion here and we're going to look at eggs. Eggs have been around at least 1 billion years. About 312 million years ago, hard to be precise with that sort of number, that's when the first hard-shelled eggs started to come around. These are known as Amniot eggs. What's important about these is because they had the hard shells, the eggs could be laid on land. They were no longer dependent on water. Up until this, all eggs, they needed to be laid in water to help to keep the egg moist and to keep some dampness around it. To give an idea of how long ago this happened, as I said, 312 million years ago. The first dinosaurs, 251 million years ago. Now, it's very hard to find evidence for these first eggs. I mean, what the contents of an egg is doesn't fossilise very well, does it? The oldest dinosaur egg fossil, that's roughly 190 million years old. The oldest bird fossil, the Archaeopteryx, that's roughly 150 million years old. So eggs, they've been around for a long time, and they were certainly around for a long time before we started to see birds. So we can see from all this that eggs, they definitely came before the chicken. But now the story, it takes a twist. And this is already how you look at it. How do you look at the first chicken and the first chicken egg? We've already mentioned that the parents of the first chicken were two red junglefowl. They produced an egg that contained the first chicken. But is that egg a chicken egg, or is it a red junglefowl egg that just happened to have a chicken embryo? And it fetches us right back to the initial question, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, I would say the egg came first. The egg contained a chicken embryo, so in my thinking, it was a chicken egg. But you may argue that, well, the chicken came first. The chicken embryo was in a red junglefowl egg, so that's not a true chicken egg, is it? And the first true chicken egg was produced when that chicken mated and laid its first egg. It's a frustrating question, this. I've really enjoyed doing the research on it. It's very hard to actually come up with a clear answer, and you'd have thought it's such a simple sounding question, you thought it would be easy to answer. But I find it really hard to come up and point to something and say, yes, that is definitely the answer to this. As I've just said, I've enjoyed doing this video. I found it really interesting. It's a question, it's been there since I was a kid. It's something I've always heard. And it was nice to be able to dig in and then try and formulate my thoughts to create this video. Have you got any questions that you'd like me to look into? I'm really enjoying doing the research and I'm really enjoying looking at different areas. Please drop a comment down below. Let's kickstart the conversation. Please hit the thumbs up button. Every time you like, every time you comment, just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.